Hello, and welcome back to Compass Conversations. This is a new podcast with the Center for Faith and Vocation, soon to be known as the Compass Center. In these conversations, we are going to chat with faculty, staff, and students who advance our mission of supporting communities of faith, meaning, purpose, and spiritual life. My name is Allison, and I am a senior journalism and German double major at Butler. For our second episode, I facilitated a conversation with interns Jenna Bird and Jade Eilers. Jenna is a sophomore studying marketing and entrepreneurship at Butler. In addition to being the CFV Interfaith Community Engagement Intern, she is the founder and CEO of Little Bird Marketing, an agency that specializes in social media marketing, content creation, and graphic design. As fundraising director of her sorority, Kappa Alpha Theta, she pioneers engaging philanthropy events for CASA. When she's not glued to Adobe Illustrator, she enjoys playing the piano and making homemade pasta from scratch. Jade is a junior studying journalism and political science. She's the Interfaith Council Chair, a resident assistant, a CFE scholar, and a Morton Finney scholar. She's also a member of Kappa Alpha Theta. This coming summer, Jade will work as a freelance on-air reporter with WDTN in Dayton, Ohio. Jenna and Jade share their experiences as interfaith interns with the CFE and their personal vocational journeys. Be sure to listen to the end for practical advice and recommendations that may help you in your journey. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Okay, thank you, Jenna and Jade, for joining us for our second episode. So Jade, if you want to start, just explain what your journey with the CFE has been like and what you do in your current role.
Yeah, so my journey with the CFE started freshman year. So I'm a CFE scholar, so I have been very involved from the beginning at my time at Butler. And now I am the Interfaith Council Chair. So I intern with the CFE and work very closely with the staff. But the Interfaith Council Chair is a group of 12 to 16 Butler students from all different faith backgrounds or secular traditions. We get together every other week over a meal and we talk about things, whether that's being religious or not religious on Butler's campus. If there's been things going on in the world regarding religion, we'll talk about it. And it's just really a space for people to get to talk about religion or secularization without fear of judgment. And you get to hear perspectives from different people from different demographics. And it's just a great place to learn about yourself and your own tradition through learning about other people's.
Yeah, and you were on the council before you became leader, right?
Yes, I was on it actually my freshman year and sophomore year, fall semester freshman year, and then spring semester last year.
And about how many people are on the council?
12 to 16, it just really varies year to year on like the applications and things like that. But there's 15, I believe, right now.
Oh, all right. And Jenna, what about you? What was your journey to working with the CFB like, and what do you do in your current role?
Well, I applied to be a CFV scholar, and so I'm currently serving as a CFV scholar. So just like Jade, I kind of was in it from the get-go, and I've absolutely loved it since being involved. After that, I joined Butler University Hillel, so I've kind of been involved with that community ever since I was a freshman. And then I applied for the community engagement internship because I was just really excited about interfaith work, as my parents are both an interfaith couple. My mom is Christian and my dad's Jewish. So I've always been interested in kind of like spreading the message that they spread to me, allowing me to kind of like choose what direction I wanted to go in with my faith. I always thought that was really cool. So now I get a really cool opportunity through the CFB to actually help others kind of discover their journey. So yeah, that's kind of my current involvement.
Yeah, so what are some of the projects that you've worked on? You kind of get to spearhead some of these initiatives. I know you started a book club, so how do you originate these ideas and then implement them so that other students can participate?
Well, the most fun part about my internship is that I could really make it my own, which is really great. Like, I get a lot of great direction from Daniel Myers, who's the director of the CFV. But of course, I have a lot of room to kind of interpret the position and make it my own. So one thing I have created was our book club, our Interfaith Engagement Book Club. Last semester, we had the opportunity, a really small, tight-knit group of us, about 5 people came every other week. We read The Life of Pi. We asked some really great, like, hard-hitting questions about the themes of like salvation, grief, loss, faith, questioning, all these super great topics we kind of touched upon during our journey through the book. This semester, we get to read Patron Saints of Nothing. First book club meeting is tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. And then on top of that, I have been running Cookies and Questions, which is kind of like a little pop-up that we like to do a couple times a semester outside of the gazebo. Ask some questions to students, no wrong answer, get some cookies. Some questions that I've enjoyed kind of exploring was like the afterlife. That was a really spooky fun one we did around October. I learned that like 33% of adults believe in reincarnation, which is really neat. So yeah, that's another thing I've done. Last semester I hosted a dinner with the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic, and we kind of explored some faiths of or some ideas about faith and justice. And then we had an interfaith discussion afterwards. And we're looking to do another event like that with the Jewish Community Center this year.
Right. Yeah, I know. I stopped by the cookies and questions about the afterlife, and I was really impressed that people weren't just coming for the cookie, but they did want to engage and chat and learn from each other and from you. So really
Yeah. I mean, the cookie's a bonus, but
get people there and then they can engage in conversation.
Right.
So both of you, as you talked about, are engaged in these interfaith conversations. While they're in slightly different capacities, there is some overlap. So Jade, if you want to start, but same question to both of you. What are some challenges you face while engaging in interfaith conversation as a college student? But why are these challenges worth it, or why do you keep doing it?
Yeah, so I think the hottest topic I covered this year in Interfaith Council was the Israel-Palestine conflict that's going on. And I'm Christian, and none of my identities are with either side. So it was very challenging for me as someone who is seemingly not affected by this conflict to facilitate a conversation with people who have family members on both sides and are being really affected by this conflict. And I think being in college, like, education level is hard because not everyone is as educated on every single conflict that's happening, that's going on. For some people it's like one of the first times they're even thinking about this outside of like things they're seeing on social media or in the news. So it's really challenging, but also it's really rewarding because with conversations like that and topics like that, it means so much to so many of these people that are on the council because it is so close to home for them and they don't have anywhere to talk about it. And so for people to get together, not to yell at one another, but to get together and listen and hear perspectives and listen to listen, not listen to speak next, I think that's really important. And like I learned so much about myself and my leadership skills through facilitating that conversation and learning from so many different people. So I think it's hard because it's like everyone has different levels that they care about things and different stakes involved in it and different education levels. But I think it's really meaningful because it is such an important conversation to have. And I just think it was really important. And you learn so much about empathy within other religions and other people's lived experiences. So that was definitely the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about challenges, but also something that's rewarding.
Yeah, thank you. Same question to you, Gemma.
Well, I love what Jade said about actually creating a space for people to kind of like voice their thoughts. And that's something that has been super rewarding for me. I know coming to college, talking about religion was kind of taboo. So now that I get to talk about that for my job and like have other people talk about that too, it's really just been like a huge mindset shift for me. And I've really enjoyed kind of watching people realize like, oh, like I can talk about this, like it's okay. And while you're talking through it, while you're talking about it, you're kind of understanding more and more about your own identity, which is great. We did a cookies and questions on generational religion, and it was amazing how many little stickers were next to the, oh, I believe my faith because my parents told me to believe my faith, and that's what I'm going to stick with. A lot of people said that answer, which wasn't really surprising to me, but it is really interesting how much like your household shapes kind of what your religious identity is. And coming to college, you have such like a huge exposure to so many different new ideas that you could incorporate. So my position has been really, really rewarding, kind of helping people start their journey or even just start thinking about looking into kind of what they want to believe. Because like, what's the point of following a religion unless like you're invested in it personally?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So shifting gears a little from your roles to maybe the more vocational aspects of your lives, but Jenna, you can start. Is there a influential person in your journey who's made a real impact, and what have you learned from them?
I would say the most influential people that have affected my journey has been my parents. Again, they are both an interfaith couple. and really just showed me that like you can have like friendships, relationships that are interfaith, and that shouldn't really be like a boundary. Of course, if that's something that's important to you, then like place value on that and use that to guide your relationships. But it's really like been great just watching them as role models, to understand how to be more like empathetic towards other people. And it's just like really opened my eyes to want to actually like keep going on my journey, because I grew up when my parents were kind of like shaping me into who I was going to be. They always told me, you don't need to like necessarily pick a side. You don't have to pick any of our sides. You can just be whatever you want to be. And I ended up just settling on Judaism because it felt right. I didn't, let me change the word for that. I didn't settle. I very excitedly picked that I wanted to be fully Jewish. But again, I would have never had that opportunity if they didn't provide that like safe and growth mindset space for me to be brought up in.
Yeah. And Jade?
I would probably have to say my mom as well. We are Christian, but we grew up, I'm saying we grew up like we were kids together. Me and my mom growing up were celebrating not only Christian traditions, but Jewish traditions as well. We did Christmas. One year we would do Christmas, the next year we would do Hanukkah. So I've been practicing interfaith for a really long time. And she has just always been very open-minded and empathetic towards other people, and that always encouraged learning. So for me, growing up, I've just always been curious about other people's identities and their beliefs. So I think interfaith is just a natural fit for my life because I've been growing up doing it and practicing different traditions that are different than mine, but still kind of feel like my traditions because I've done them growing up.
Yeah. So is there a book or movie you'd recommend to everyone listening that's been particularly meaningful to you and maybe helped you realize your purpose? Jade, if you can think of one, you can start.
Yeah, so there's this movie called, I believe it's called The Shack, but growing up, I was really scared of death, which I still kind of am, but this was a movie where I felt really connected to God, and God was played by a Black woman, and I don't know why that was so comforting for me. But seeing God in a different perspective than what he is talked about in the Bible, and just seeing God as something other than a man for me was really interesting. And also it talked about like it talked about death, but also in a way of like it's not something to fear. And just talking about like everything is God's plan. And that movie to me was like a really out of body experience, but it just brought me a lot of peace. And I felt really connected to, my religion, and also felt very connected to God within watching that movie. But it also just like made me at peace. Because it's like everything is out of my control and everything happens for a reason, even death. So that's just the movie that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, thank you. And Jenna?
That's great. Well, actually, like when you were asking this question, I had a movie that like immediately popped into mind, and I should give it more credibility because it is in fact a musical. And if there's one thing about me, I have two fatal flaws. I love theater and I'm a history buff. So Les Mis is my all-time favorite movie, show, soundtrack, what have you. And it actually has a lot of really interesting like religious undertones. If you don't know much about Les Mis, it's this like beautiful braided narrative that takes place in like the 1800s, and it's following a couple different storylines around like the Paris uprising and kind of like what the poor are facing, like what the rich are facing during that time. And it's really, really good. But anyways, there's a lot of themes of like redemption, and no matter like how low you are in life, no matter how like bad you've messed up, you'll always have like an opportunity to change and have an opportunity to get out of that situation. And that always kind of like gives me hope because like, I mean, obviously someone being in jail for 35 years is nothing in comparison to me like failing a quiz. But if I'm like at rock bottom, I'm like, oh man, I just failed this quiz. I'm like, I should be more like Jean Valjean and have faith and have hope that I can, get redemption if I just keep on like believing in myself. So that movie play has always been really inspiring for me. And definitely one of my favorite pieces of art of all time.
Yeah, I have not seen The Shack, so I have to add that to my list. And I would not call them flaws, Jenna. I love theater and history too. And yeah, Les Mis is a beautiful piece of work. I think I was probably fairly young when I saw it for the first time, but I've seen it, as a show in the theater and the movie since. And I'd recommend even people who've seen it before, yeah, maybe watch it again, because I think it means different things at different points in your life, or maybe you'll just understand things differently. I probably wasn't able to grasp the whole concept when I was younger, maybe in elementary school or middle school when I saw it for the first time, but now I can probably better understand some of the general themes. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna watch it after this. Now I'm like, I have to see it.
Um, so are there any tools you found particularly helpful when you're feeling maybe overwhelmed? You both are very busy, not only with your classwork, but extracurriculars, starting businesses, internships. So, Jenna, do you have any tools that work for you?
I would say a good balance between time blocking in my schedule and making sure I'm being really intentional about how I'm filling my time. Specifically also blocking in time for work and rest, and also like exercise. Exercise is like the best thing that I can do for my mental health. So I would say just kind of like being really cognizant of how I'm spending my time every single week is the best way that I can manage my schedule.
Yeah. What about you, Jade?
I definitely would second exercise. I think when I have more of like a holistic balance, that's when I feel my best. I'm also really into a 4-day work week if you can have that. So not having classes on Fridays has been really awesome for me. So I like can do everything that I need to do. And yeah, those 4 days are really, really stressful because they're jam-packed, but having that reprieve at the end of the week to look forward to has been really, really awesome. Also, just I love just doing like all the girly stuff like skincare, getting my hair done, face masks. Like I love all of that stuff. And like it's cliche and kind of superficial, but I feel like when I look better, I feel better. And that's just how it is. So
Yeah, no, I mean, there's like psychology behind if you smile, then you can kind of try and change your mood. So even if you're not
yeah.
necessarily in a position to want to smile, if you like force your face into that position. So yes, sometimes the way you look does help influence how you're feeling. So given that we're all facing personal, professional, global challenges, what gives you hope for the future? You're both very young. We're all fairly young. And so hopefully have a big future ahead. And so what gives you hope? Jade, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think facilitating Interfaith Council has given me a lot of hope. Just the way that I see my peers from all different backgrounds getting together and being empathetic towards one another and having that be a really safe space. Religion is something that people can be very vulnerable about, and people can have a lot of trauma related to it, and everyone is very empathetic, even if you think you're polar opposites with someone and have no lived experience in common. I see these people opening up and sharing amidst global conflict, amidst being in college and having these new experiences for the first time. And it gives me a lot of hope to see people connecting and sharing things about themselves and their beliefs and their lives together in this space that we've created. And so that's given me a lot of hope for the future of if people can get together and talk about things. Like I feel like there's a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, great. Jenna.
I would say the support groups that I've found on campus gives me a lot of hope, because I know like being a Jewish woman in Indiana is a little bit challenging at times, just because like obviously I'm always going to be a minority in that sense. But I have so many great friends that I've met like on campus that are Jewish that just get it, and we just click so well. And so I know I'll always have those people to surround myself with. And also, not even in my religion, too, a lot of people who are just so like happy to learn and happy to share about their own traditions, too. And I know that they'll always be supportive of me in my like religious journey.
Yeah, great. All right. And to end, how do you hope to use what you've learned not only through your internships with the CFV, but also just your involvement in other aspects of the center in the future? How do you hope to take with you what you've learned and implement that into potential careers or futures? So Jenna, you can start.
Well, I'd like to become a manager someday of either a company that I start or a company that I'm working for. And being a manager is obviously all about understanding your people And the more that I can understand my people, kind of their motivations, like what it's like at home, like their culture, the better. And also like now that I have the tools and practice of facilitating interfaith conversations, I can bring that into a future workplace. And so that makes me feel really excited to incorporate elements of DEI. And from my classes, I've learned that workplaces that have that kind of DEI exposure and people with more diverse perspectives often perform way better than companies who lack that. And so it just gets me really excited about the growth potential that my future company can have.
Yeah. And Jade?
Yeah, so I am going to be a reporter, and the whole world of news and journalism is about storytelling and seeking truth. And so, in my experience, I am asking questions for people to have a space to tell their story, and I'm listening to them tell their story. And it's just a great reminder that everyone's got different lived experiences. But if you ask the right questions and do the work to get to know people and ask meaningful conversation or have meaningful conversations, you can do so much. And so I think my experience will be really transferable into the world of journalism, when it comes to like asking questions and having people tell their stories and giving a voice to people that don't often get one.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for your thoughtful answers and for joining me. I appreciate it.